Hello my fellow readers. In this video I am going to do my quarterly review, which I meant to film a while ago, but then I forgot. So this covers reading from January through March of 2022, and this will be the only time that you see me on camera. The rest of the time I'm just going to be showing you from the computer, so you'll only see the computer screen, going over Goodreads, and also my spreadsheet that I keep in Google Docs that came from Book Riot. I used to do a whole thing where I'd pick out like my top favorites. I did not have time for that, especially after I got sick. No time for that, so I will just point them out as I show the books that I read. I'll tell you what my favorites were at that time, but yeah, so I will let my computer self take over. So here is my 2022 reading log that I've been so happy to keep and track this year. It's just been amazing for me. As you can see, I customized mine to fit my color scheme that I usually use. So you'll see a lot of the dark pink, the purple. Along here are all the titles, and we can see the publication date versus the dates read. This is right here. I think this one is the only one I had to fudge on a little bit because I think I started before the 31st, but it won't track it if you like started before this date, which is stupid because I finished the majority of the book in 2022, so I just fudged the start date, which is fine. But yeah, I just love this, and then you can go through and make sure you add all the things, like if it came from another country and what language it was and the good old star rating. But I like how Book Riot did it so that you can have the half stars, because I do kind of rate a lot of books like half stars. And then like quick little comments, and then any of these that you see with the number goes back to the Read Harder challenge, which I have now finished. But yeah, let's just take a look at how many I completed. So we'll scroll down the titles here. I also realized that I had to change some of the number, and it's caused me a little bit of a hassle because I don't know, there's probably a shortcut to do it, but I didn't look it up, so I've just been changing as I go along. Like I missed one and I had to like input it and it messed up the numbering system. Anyway, it's a whole thing, but it's fine. Yeah, as you can see, I've read a lot, and you'll see it look better in Goodreads, but I wanted to get the overall number of how many. So again, there's a lot of manga in here, so it's not like it's all heavy duty reading, although some of it was. Okay, so we end here at March 31st, and that was 190 books. And we actually end with one of my book club books. So, wow, 190. I need to like jot that down and compare it to last year, because I don't remember where I was last year in March. I'll have to watch my video, or actually check my stats because I write them down. But I feel like that's more, even though I said I wanted to read less. So, yeah. And as you can see, April, I also filled up with a lot. There's some here in April that I can't wait to talk about. I haven't gotten to yet. But Gentle Noble's vacation recommendation, I'm really liking that so far. I believe this is based on a light novel, but I don't think the light novel is released in English. But I've been enjoying the manga. It's just a very like slice of life fantasy. I don't know how else to describe it. The main character is from another world. We haven't had too much revealed of that yet, but yeah, I'm liking that one. So I'm gonna do a review of this at some point, but it's just a very soft read that I'm liking. So yay. I do think it's I don't know. I don't want to use the word crazy, but like unbelievable that I read in 3 months the amount that some people are able to do in like a year. I don't think it's normal. I don't think it's something that people should strive for. It is possible, and it's not like I'm reading or listening to things every second of the day. I literally am not. But there are certain days that allow themselves to more reading than other days, and I sort of do it almost by like how you would watching something, like if I'm really into it, I might read more. But if I'm not, maybe I pause and I go into another book. And just by doing that, I get through a lot because my brain is stimulated. And I'm just happy. Like it keeps me calmer to keep it occupied like that. And I know it's not for everyone. And I do other stuff too. Like I'm a crafter and I play games and I don't know. Like I honestly sometimes I don't know how I'm able to get through so much. I mean, sometimes it's lazy Saturdays where I don't want to do anything other than read. And again, manga, I can get through manga like almost a whole series in the amount of time it takes to get through like a book. So if you ever see that number and you're staggered by it, well, just know, like, I vary it up. I'm very diverse. And some of the things are very quick, like a children's, I don't want to say children's, this is middle grade to YA, but the Fazbear Frights books, they don't take that much time. They're a very quick, short work of short stories. So, that's going to take you a max 2 to 3 hours. Elevation was like I think it was either 2 or 3, like Stephen King short stories. I feel like it was 2, just Elevation, and then there was the like alligator one. But again, that's very quick. So it's that variety. I mean, it can be done. But anyway, we'll see how the end of the year goes. Like, I don't know if I'm going to keep up this pace for the end of the year. It depends on how busy my life gets. It is what it is. And I'm trying not to let that get to me, like where I feel like I have to reach a certain target. I just enjoy whatever I do. So yeah, at this point it's working for me, but who knows? Before I go over to Goodreads and show you the beautiful covers so that you can actually see more of it and pause and slow it down or whatever you want to do. I just want to show you like some of what I enjoy about keeping this tracker. And part really has to do with the different statistics. So you can look at it this way, which every once in a while I check this out, but my favorite is actually the charts because I'm more of a visual person. So if I go over to the charts, I now have everything like laid out for me. As you can see, I do not have any that I have not finished at this point in time. And yes, the number total is more akin to where I am. This is not actually accurate though, because I haven't updated like this week's books at this time, just because of how I haven't been well. So I haven't really figured in that. But yeah, I don't have any that are unfinished. I usually choose a good works. So like I want to finish the books. I don't choose too many that I don't like. And feel like I at least liked, Here we have fiction versus nonfiction. Obviously, I read a lot more fiction than nonfiction, but I do always try to get a few nonfiction titles in. I like memoirs a lot, but I also will like good nonfiction that talks about topics that I'm interested in. One of the ones I did the course of this year, oh goodness, what is it? The Flowers of New Moon or whatever it is, the Osage murder. That was really good nonfiction. Okay. Format, as you can see, I have a pretty good division between audio and print. A lot of my print will be more of the manga and light novel variety. Whereas audio is more like the narrative fiction. I like keeping that variety up. And then I do have some of the ebooks. Ebooks tend to be the arcs that I'm reading, because it's not my favorite format. But I am trying to get more accustomed to it. It's not like I hate it. I just often forget that it's there. I have to remind myself to read it. But I'm doing fairly well with that, and I'm enjoying some of the e-arcs that I have for ebooks, and also thinking about getting more, reading more ebooks. So we'll see. I definitely don't like to borrow library ebooks this way because I'll never get them in time. But a book that's either an arc that I have time to read, or one that I've purchased, I don't mind because I can invest that time to do it. Audience, so you can see I try to keep a variety here, but the most will be adult and YA, but followed by children's and middle grade. I do like to try to get a few of those in just so that I can stay up to date with what's being published. And I should say that there's a few picture books that are books that I've read. So in the 190, there's a couple of picture books, and that's valid too. That is valid reading. Next, shows you the form of it. So I've had a couple of short stories, comics. This is where the manga comes in. Novellas. I've had a couple of those. I don't know what the little slices are. I can't remember what they would be. Maybe the nonfiction. But I know, because nonfiction I think is prose, because then it's broken into genre. But anyway, mostly prose. I'm not actually a huge lover of short stories. I can deal with it, especially the quick horror ones I'm fine with, but I don't really like short stories. I'm much more into full-length prose. Next are the genres, so you can see what I read the most of. This is not at all surprising that the majority of what I like to read is fantasy. I've talked about that a bunch of times. I like fantasy, and I like a variety of different fantasy levels. So whether that's historical, political, lit RPG, I like fantasy. It's very much urban fantasy, literally any kind of fantasy I really like, including to a borderline fantasy, but magical realism I really liked as well. So we'll see. I've been reading more science fiction, so there's some of that in there. Basic general fiction, contemporary type work that isn't romance here. Memoirs, I said I like to read them, and the general nonfiction, so you can see that breakup there. Horror, obviously, is a good chunk. I've talked before, I like horror. Romance is a big chunk, and yeah, this definitely fits. And then, to a lesser extent, mystery and crime, and then historical, because I do like thrillers, so they're in the mystery and crime. I'm an eclectic reader, so I do like to read everything. Of course, my favorite is fantasy. And it's just interesting because fantasy also has romantic fantasy, historical fantasy, fantasy that has more thrillers and, so it's I get this, but also if you read fantasy, a lot of this is incorporated in this, and you can get romantic thrillers and stuff as well. So the other genres have it, but I'm just saying I think I like a lot of these genres, but they might be falling into fantasy as well. But yeah, so anyway, I'm an eclectic reader. And then the pub date, you can see that most of what I've read so far is on the backlist, which makes sense. I'm trying to catch up on some of those, but I do have books that are pub tier this year. Either I got them, after their release date, or I've read the arc, and they will be out this year. Books by page count. Now, where this is interesting is that a lot of the longer books that I've read this year are actually going to fall into audiobooks. So I've read a couple of the Outlander books this year, and they're going to be an audiobook length. Also finished The Count of Monte Cristo finally this year. So again, those are actually in audiobook. But were they here, they would be more on the the range over here because those are some chunky books. So where you will see it falling is the 100 to 200, which is probably the manga that I read, and then these would probably be more the light novels, and maybe ebooks here. The book source, you can see that the majority of what I read in the year is borrowed from the library, because I ain't gonna spend all that money. Could you imagine how much I would have spent reading 190 books already if I bought them all? That's ridiculous. So no, a lot of them is from the library. Then this chunk is a review copy, so also not purchased. And then these are ones that I've purchased. Either I bought them this year or I had them before, which is still a good chunk. And then you can see how it falls of when I finished them. So I read X amount, that's got to be like 50 something in January, and then over 60 in February and March. So yeah. Wow. And then again, I have not finished April yet, so we'll see where that fits in when I'm done. And then my star ratings. So you can see very, very, very few got 2-star, and one is 2.5 or something. So very rarely do I have ones that are this low. A lot of the books that I do choose to read do fall into the 4-star. I feel like people are like, I don't believe you, but honestly, I do think most of them fall in the 4-star. And then we have the 3s, and the 3.5 would be a big chunk of them as well. You know, am I generous for 4.5 and maybe 5-star? I don't know. I don't think so. I think I give books that I feel deserve it, that highest rating. The author, artist, gender. I apparently mostly read female, but there are female authors, and then other, whether it's non-binary, gender fluid. So, I mean, it happens. The nation of origin, I think, is interesting. Obviously, the most fall into the USA, but a big chunk, obviously, manga falls in Japan. I do have some from Korea. There's a bit of France, UK, Canada. I get to add Denmark in here soon, so that'll be exciting. And then authors of color versus white authors. I do a pretty good job at keeping that in between. The only thing I'll say about, like, the authors of color is that there's more that would be tracked within here. Since this counts indigenous authors, it counts the authors, like, obviously anything from Japan, Korea, Latinx authors, and Black authors. That's a little bit harder, but yeah, again, I try to keep my reading diverse. I mean, I don't really think about it. It's not like on a conscious level. Just in general, I like reading diverse. So, I don't know. It's interesting to actually see it laid out, but I think the majority of it is not planned. Like, I read what I'm interested in. I don't think, I have to meet some criteria with reading authors of color versus white authors. Like, I don't think about it. I think, ooh, that cover looks attractive and the plot sounds good, so I pick up the book. And then I just so happen to discover, like, that was from an author of color. Like, it's not really conscious on my mind, unless I am purposefully looking for one for a challenge or something. Like, it's not, I don't think about it. I just read what I want to. The protagonists, are they people of color or are they white? And this is interesting to me because you would think it would be about the same here. But I find that this doesn't always hold true, especially if the, say, like, an author of Asian descent is writing about a European style character. Well, then their protagonist is not a person of color. Obviously, that doesn't so much count if it's like an isekai story where the person was Japanese and now suddenly they're in a fantasy world. I wouldn't consider that the same. But yeah, it's just interesting because I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. Again, I I just go by plot more so than trying to fit a demographic. Again, here it gets into whether the authors, queer authors or not. Sometimes this is hard to gauge because people might not be out. Like they might be writing about a character who is queer, but they themselves might not be out or identifying as such. Like you might just not be able to find any info out about it. And I find that this statistic might be off, especially with some of the foreign authors. But it is what it is. So again, books in translation versus not in translation. Yes, the majority will be USA writing. But then here, you're going to have the Korean authors that I read, the Japanese authors, blah, blah, blah. I haven't had too many with disability representation. Just is what it is. Again, they decided to divide trans versus just being in the LGBTQ line. Like it's technically there as well, but then they broke it down to C. And again, this can be harder too because it could be where the author does not want to be publicly known that way. Like if they're living their lives in a particular gender, they might not want to talk about their past, and it's entirely up to the author. But I guess this was just their way of people wanted to make sure they were reading diversely. Anyway, I do think it's interesting to see the breakdown. And maybe especially if you don't read diversely, if you tend to stick with people that look and have the same backgrounds as you, maybe it would be eye-opening and you would start to read outside of yourself. But I enjoy reading from people that aren't like me. It makes life a lot more exciting. So let's hop over to Goodreads and we'll navigate some of the books that I have read so far. I will say the year didn't start off that exciting because, like, some of these books I read because I had to. Or I was trying to get them off of my shelf. This one I was reading for If You Like Then Try. I didn't really love this book. This one was from one of my crates, but I didn't really love that book. This was an advanced reader copy that I got unsolicited. But this one wasn't bad. I actually kind of like that. I read through the graphic novel series from Five Nights at Freddy's, and it was interesting seeing them drawn out. I had already read it. I mean, it's not like the best story, but it's kind of fun. Kaiju 8. This is good. I like this series. I need to read, I think at least the second volume's out. Volume 3 might be out by now as well. But I like this one. Also, this work, Bowie, that was really good. Grass is a beautiful graphic novel that depicts the comfort women. I would highly recommend that one. I read some Maya Angelou that I've been meaning to for years. It Ain't Magic I talked about. Actually, both of these I talked about. Oh, the Two Lions. I definitely talked about that. I love that. Just seeing it makes me happy. Sally Rooney. I don't think I got to do a review on this one. I would definitely recommend this one. It was like the first time that a Sally Rooney novel ended a little bit happy. Oh, and this Death's Master by Taneth Lee. I really liked this as well. This is actually the second book in the series, but it didn't matter. Like, it was okay on its own as well, but I kind of want to read the rest of this, but it's hard to find. I think I can only get the ebooks, but I kind of want to. So again, you'll probably see ones that I got to talk about. This was interesting. I discovered as I was trying to like get caught up with Snow White with the red hair that I missed a volume, and so I had to buy it. That was weird. I still love Witch Hat Atelier. That's still such a great series. There it is, the Killers of the Flower Moon. This is the one. It's a great nonfiction. It talks about the start of the FBI, but also just the Osage murders. It's. I'm so excited. I'm clicking things randomly, but this was really good. Oh, here's the other like long series I'm getting through. The Wheel of Time. Slowly making my way through that. I think I just finished the fourth volume, and it's like good, but I feel like a lot of it kind of drags a little bit. Like there's not really that much happening, even though it's really long. I don't know. The Silence Between Us. Oh, I almost maybe would save this for another If You Like Then Try, because this would be great. Maybe I already talked about it. This would be great pair with A Sign of Affection. Tear Moon Empire. I love this. Book of Night, which is the I don't think this is out yet, is it? This is the new Holly Black book. I know that I read the arc, but I can't remember what the actual release date is. So if it's out by the time this is up, you can pick this up. It's dark urban fantasy. This is Holly Black's first adult book. So Holly Black has written like children's, middle grade, and YA. Obviously, The Cruel Prince YA was huge. But this is her first adult book. And I liked it. Like I kind of figured out bits of it, but I still also it took a while to get into it. Like there was a big chunk like in the beginning where I was like, what is the point of this? But then once it got moving, I really, really liked it. Like it was one of those books that just gets better as you read it. So might do a review on it, but I don't know if I'm gonna have time. It's planned to review, but I don't know. We'll see how the schedule lands. Devils and Realists, which I talked about. Oh, I'm really loving these Greek retellings. So The Women of Troy was beautifully written. If you are a fan of Madeline Miller, which I am, so that would be The Song of Achilles or Circe. These are great. Like you could easily move into The Women of Troy, and you'd have a good time reading it. They're really, really good. I love seeing The Abandoned Empress. Like this was one of my favorite graphic novels to read. Some of the light novels that you'll see, I will be doing reviews on them as well. It's just taking a while to get through. I love Stephen Graham Jones. Great horror. This is another one I might do a review on. This is the upcoming Emily Henry book for the summer, and it's totally adorable. I loved this one so much. This might be my favorite Emily Henry book. So I had the advanced reader copy of this, and it's super good. I like it so much. So I probably will do a review of this. Hopefully it'll make it up before the book is out, but it might not. It might be out after the book is released. We'll see, because I don't know with my schedule yet when things are I'm gonna have the energy or just do it, but highly, highly recommend this one when it is released. It's so good. Some favorites in there, some more light novels that I have to get through. Again, A Thousand Ships is another Greek retelling. I like that one too. I like The Women of Troy a little bit better, but this one's good as well. Which Moon Witch Spider King is the second, and I think I liked this one more than the first book. I don't know, maybe it's because I could follow the narrative better, or it could just be that I was familiar with the writing style for this one, but I feel like I liked this one more. We need to talk about Kevin. Very disturbing, very good book. I Cannot Reach You. I don't remember if I've talked about this series, but this is good. I really like this one. This and My Love Mix-Up, I'm really enjoying. So if I have not talked about these, I probably will, but I can't remember whether or not I have. This one I definitely will be talking about, the Savior's Book Cafe story in Another World. I'm really liking this one, so I'll talk about it. I just finished volume 2, and it has like this ending that I'm not sure where this series is going after that, but yeah, I like it. This is the latest Nora Roberts fantasy series, and I like this. So this is more like romantic fantasy, but it involves like fairies and otherworldly stuff, and I really like it. Finally got my volume 2 in for Holic Ray, so I read through the 4 volumes of that. And I heard that Holic is coming back. Clamp is planning to bring it out of hiatus, so I'm really excited about that. 9 Coaches Waiting was good. It's historic fiction. I'm trying to think of the word I was just thinking of. It's gothic historical fiction. I'll be reviewing this one, and also Freya. Oh my gosh, I love Prince Freya, so I will be talking about that for sure. And this one, only the Flower Nose, which finally got an English release. I'm so glad this did. I might talk about that one, but I haven't yet, so we'll see. Chainsaw Man, I will be doing a review on soon, so look for that. Lament of the Lamb, I'm going to talk about too. This is an old one. This is out of print here. It was published by Tokyo Pop years ago, and I got to read it recently. I think as the year went on, there was a lot that I got to read that are pretty good. Have slowly been making my way through the Fazbear Frights. They're wicked, they're fast, and sometimes disturbing, but I don't know. I'm having a good time reading them. I have to stop here because this is the end of the period, so ignore these. We'll talk about these in another couple of months. So I end here with The Exiles. Unburied Carol was interesting. This is by the author of Bird Box. And yeah, I don't know, like, I don't have like specific favorites, but anything that I talked about, go ahead and try it, or if I just mention that I'll be reviewing it, wait till I do the review. But yeah, it was a pretty good reading period, and just looking back, I'm just kind of in awe of what I got through. Is sometimes getting through like something like A Breath of Snow and Ashes, I'm just like, wow, because those books, they're very good, but also very long. Like, it just, wow. Last one I'll just mention quickly, I found disappointing. It was a Hamlet retelling, and I thought it'd be really, really cool. It was just, I don't know, it wasn't that great. So, there you go. I will go back to my other self to close it out. So those were my first quarter reads for 2022. I'm really excited to see what the year brings. As you may have noticed, so far I am failing on my New Year's resolution to read less. Although it wasn't so much about reading less, it was about reading more purposefully and giving other things a chance, because a lot of times I would just pick an audiobook out that I could listen to in one day just so that I could complete like a book a day. And I didn't want that. I wanted to be actually reading things that I really enjoyed. So I've been doing a lot more where, maybe I'm reading a couple chapters in a light novel, and maybe I have an ebook, especially arcs. Like maybe I have an ebook arc that I am working through, and at the same time, maybe I'm listening to an audiobook. And I find that it's been much better for me in that sense, that I just feel like I pick up something and read it when I want to, instead of, oh, I have to finish this audiobook so that I can get done with a book a day. And I do feel also that some of it will also relax a little bit as I finish my reading challenges, which a lot of them are almost done, which is ridiculous. I'm like, why in 4 months are you done with like 4 or 5 reading challenges? Not quite yet. I have completed the Book Riot Read Harder challenge for this year, but I still have my other ones to complete, but they are almost done, and I'm kind of happy about it. So that's it for this video. Until next time, bye.